Station. I'm Stefan.
Brandon.
Welcome back to the Kingdom, guys. Today we're going to be going over our top 10 favorite Marvel movies because Verno, the big homie over at Cerebro, shouted us out for this. So let's get to it. Oh, we're also going to be having 2 honorable mentions.
Yes.
So keep that in mind.
Yes. So my first auto mention, by the way, guys, this is Wednesday. This video will be out at 1 o'clock. We're moving Christ on Infinite Rants. We've moved it. This is now the 3rd week we're doing so, where we're dropping every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you guys take a look out for that and set your calendars. Put on the notification bell. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, because we're going over our top 10 MCU movies. This is going to be awesome. My first honorable mention. This is a hot take. By the way, I do want to disclose that just because our lists are different, that does not disclose any of these movies. We are huge fans of every single movie that Marvel has put out, and it's really hard to make these top 10s. So, well, you guys may have a different top 10. That is certainly okay, and I welcome you guys to share that in the comments below.
Yes,
right?
Please.
I love seeing how people gravitate towards different movies differently.
They're different perspectives, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to dismiss you because you put, let's say, Ant-Man at your number 1. I might dismiss you if you put Deadpool at your number 1, but that's because it's not in the MCU. But I digress. My first honorable mention is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The biggest strength that this movie had was obviously its soundtrack, and then just like the family dynamic we saw with Peter and Ego, his father. We got to know the Celestials a little bit more, so that there was that kind of soft build there. But I ultimately thought that the soundtrack, which drove the movie in a lot of ways, was not as strong as what the first movie did. So with that being said, it is going to be at the honorable mention. Expect to see the first movie up higher on this list. Baby Groot was great. Drax was great. Mantis was great. Absolutely. All the characters there were great. It's just I found some of the moments in there to be a little bit lackluster, and Guardians 1 just kept me entertained the whole way. But stay tuned to see where that falls in my list. Stefan, what's your other honorable mention?
My first honorable mention is going to be Spider-Man Homecoming. I love it. I love it. I love, like as you said, I love all Marvel movies. I go see everyone in theaters, but this iteration of Spider-Man debatably could be called Iron Man Jr., Tony Stark Jr. This Spider-Man's legacy is really tied into Tony Stark and him. So it's almost like, I don't know if he really stands on his own legs in a sense. Compared to other iterations of Spider-Man, there's Garfield, especially Tobey.
Oh, Tobey.
Classic Ditko Spider-Man right there.
Right.
But yeah, it was a great, fun movie. It got the whole the high school thing down, like the high school tropes and troubles. We've never seen that done. Well, they kind of glossed over it in the first Spider-Man, the first actually Garfield's and Tobey's. Yes. So it was cool to let them like breathe a little bit in that aspect. But when I think about how it's supposed to represent Spider-Man, I don't think it is as strong as previous iterations, so that's why I give it an honorable mention.
Right. I think that movie alone was too busy. Now it's a lot higher on the list, and I'll get into reasons why it's higher on mine later on in the show. But my other honorable mention is Black Panther. We had a legendary performance by Chadwick Boseman, R.I.P. But what really didn't do this movie for me was, we were kind of talking about this earlier, it didn't really have that strong of a finish. In my mind, I thought Killmonger was a great villain, so I don't think necessarily the way that the movie ended was leading me to have more questions. I like being interested, seeing where we're going to go next. But at the end of Black Panther, it felt just so isolated to me. Yeah. And then the other thing is, when I think of Wakanda, I think about like the culture, I think about the inner cities and what really make Wakanda. And we have, I would say to this day, to really see the inside of Wakanda. Like, I mean, like the streets. I mean, like the actual people in Wakanda. We have yet to see that, right? We saw a lot of the outskirts of the cities. That's where the big battle was. That's where we met up with M'Baku. But we also saw the tech lab, obviously, with the vibranium. And then we saw the throne. Other than that, we never really got to see the streets. We probably got 1 or 2 scenes. And there wasn't a whole lot of interaction with Black Panther and any of the other citizens of Wakanda. So it was really hard for me to get attached to Black Panther in the relation that the movie the movie has always said, and even in Civil War, that he has such a strong, close-knit relationship with his people. And I didn't really get that from that movie. That's okay. But I enjoyed it. The visuals were great. The acting was great. And I thought it was a really good movie. I'm not discrediting it at all. But for those reasons, it is a lot lower on my list.
Well said, brother. Well said. My next honorable mention is something similar to this vein. Is I'm gonna go with Shang-Chi.
Oh,
Just came out. I actually really enjoyed this movie when it first. It's only been a few months, but when in my theater experience, I was really impressed by this. I've watched it umpteen times since it's come out on Disney Plus, but I kind of think it it does a great job at introducing a new area of the Marvel universe we've not really played in
yes.
or seen, different lore, different mythology, different way of doing things culturally as well. But I don't like it was kind of like you were saying about Black Panther. I felt this with Shang-Chi. I didn't really feel too connected to him by the end of this. They tried to set up a lot, but I like you said, I think it kind of both these movies suffer from failing in the third arc, like it just kind of becomes they weren't bad arcs, I don't think. They're bad third arcs, but I just think they became kind of
well, I think
not lazy, unenthusiastic, I think is
well, if you have a lazy second part of the movie, right? Let's say your movie's divided into 3 parts. You have a lousy second part, you have a lot to build up and really like because what really matters your first and last impressions, right? You go to a job, they're gonna remember how you interviewed and how you left. They ain't gonna remember anything else 9 times out of 10. Learn that the hard way. But so I kind of agree with that. Now let's get into our top 10. Number 10. This is gonna be a little bit controversial. Now my list is full of hot takes, by the way, so bear with me here. It's actually Infinity War. Now this was a big blockbuster for the not only Marvel but the movie industry, just because you haven't seen this many like big name actors, this much talent on one set in ever, right? But I think having that much talent really defeated the purpose of the movie, which is bringing everyone together. And I don't think that there wasn't necessarily a balance in this movie, in my opinion. I think that having this many personalities also got the movie to suffer. With a lot of the relationships that we've seen in Captain America Winter Soldier, where you have like those intricate moments between characters, there really wasn't any of that going on. So that's my number 10. I still really enjoyed it. I enjoyed Thanos. I love seeing everyone together. I remember seeing this in theaters, and it was a whole ordeal. It was actually my junior prom.
Nice.
And it was funny because Endgame came out my senior prom the next year. Both scenarios, I took my dates to see the movies instead of going to the actual prom. So I guess that's why they're still not my girlfriends. But no, I'm kidding. That was a whole other scenario. But Infinity War was a good movie. I really, really enjoyed it, but it just felt a little bit too claustrophobic, and that's okay because after the first Avengers movie, it kind of felt that way. Age of Ultron especially, right? But then look what happened in Civil War. They were able to pull it off the next time. Infinity War felt like that. It felt so congested, but Endgame, even bigger cast, and they did a much better job. So
they're different movies, but I'll give you that. They it's hard to compare, but well said. No, you made some very good points. It did because of the scope of the story that they're telling and all the different moving pieces from other stories that have to intertwine into one. There was a lot going on. There wasn't really a lot of time to breathe in that movie for those character moments you were talking about. So I see what you mean by that. My 10th favorite, we'll go from 10 up. Number 10 is Iron Man.
Movie that started it all.
Cannot have this movie. You cannot have the MCU without this movie. It gets the MCU. There's a select 2 or 3 movies I think most MCU movies are the blueprint for, and they build around off that. But this is one of them. Like the humor, just the acting, the casting choices. They're very inspired, to be honest. I would have never thought back in the day that Jeff Bridges would have been in a comic book movie. I don't know why, but I love Jeff Bridges. He was great as Obadiah.
Oh, that's who that. Okay, I'm not familiar with names.
Obadiah. I forgot you're not good with actors, so I had to.
I could tell you every comic writer out there, but I can't tell you the actors.
Hey, that's fine. No, that's why I reference the comic.
This just goes right over my head.
Brendan was like, Obadiah. All right, he's like Jeff Bridges. Oh, Obadiah. No, that's all right.
Nah, you got me. I was like, oh. Or I can just play it off. I can just sit back and be like, I know who that is. Yeah, that one. Yeah, cool guy. Good looking dude. No,
I think that this movie kind of, now it's not dated a little bit, but because of what we've seen over the last few years and how the standard of movies have changed, it kind of knocks us down. Like, there's not really any fluid action bits in this. You know, it's very simplistic and
to our standards today.
Today, yes, but it holds up well. It looks amazing, but you know, there's really no like, you know, just oh man, like there's some cool moments, but there's like there's no moments like that, you know, and that's okay. That's because they had to build up for that. But because of that, I'm gonna, you know, I wanted to recognize this movie, because it started everything. So number 10, Iron Man.
Iron Man's a little bit higher on my list. My number 9 is something that was in your honorable mention. That was Shang-Chi. This movie completely surprised me because going into it, I thought it was like, okay, fine. You know, like, we're not doing this. I was like, this is a throwaway movie. But I was really surprised by how they took this character and just made him his own and just reinvigorated him to a whole new level. I mean, you got attached to him. As a martial arts teacher, I'm very attached to that culture that they were talking about. Because I really do believe that like martial arts affects your whole life. Even if you were doing it right. I'm a black belt. I've trained many black belts, hundreds, thousands. And I really felt a lot of those connections. It almost made me miss the art. I haven't been able to do it just due to injuries over the years. But I really did like this movie. I do think it had a really shallow back half. The CGI in the end was not the best. But I really enjoy the personal moments in there. I really enjoy the humor in there. They brought back some characters that we've seen in past movies.
Yeah, I like the rapport between what was the girl's name? His best friend. I know Aquafina's her real. I don't want to call her Aquafina, but
I forget her name. I honestly forget her name. Hard woman names, but I really liked her character. And I really like the family dynamic. You talk about how you don't really get attached to villains in the Marvel Universe. I think Mandarin was a really good villain to use, especially with the 10 rings, tying that in. And I'm saying we're going to get the Living Tribunal sometime soon. And I think that we're building up to that. And this was just a great way of introducing magic into the MCU. I've been saying it. If you're a comic head, look at the Strange Tales. And they're taking a lot of magic-based elements from that whole run, 118 to 181, and it was like really seen to me in that movie. I could have done without Abomination. I guess Wong was just kind of thrown in there, but
I think that's
it was fine. It was a fine cameo. It was fine.
You know, there was rumors that he's going to be in the She-Hulk show, and if he were to just, I mean, he could just have popped up in the She-Hulk show, and it would have been fine.
I think they just wanted people to say, "Oh, I remember that guy."
No, that as well. But if he shows up in if he shows up in Shang-Chi and then the She-Hulk, then people are like, I've seen him before. He didn't just pop up out of nowhere. But even though, like I said, they could have done without that, it still would have been fine. But you would have had an audience or people, detractors, that would have been like, he just came out of nowhere. He hasn't been seen since the Hulk.
Did he get blipped?
Possibly.
Did he get blipped? I don't
know. Yeah. So my number 9 is Black Panther.
Oh.
I think this movie did a great job at introducing, just like Shang-Chi, introducing the Marvel Universe to a different spot in the world, culturally, you know, just mostly a lot of these Marvel movies take place in like New York and stuff like that. Like this showed a different side of, you know, and I respect that. I like the Eternals because of that. I like Black Panther, Shang-Chi. I like those movies. I love those movies because of that. Because when you think Marvel Universe, you generally think of like New York. So it's cool that they show that they can still emulate the Marvel magic everywhere.
Right. Oh, I agree 100%.
Great. I like the story. I like the fact that really tried to show the struggle of him playing both sides, like almost like a not Batman or Spider-Man, but in a sense because he's a king and he's got an obligation to his people, like first
Right.
and foremost. But he knows that because of his the Wakandans are they're like the most advanced culture in the Marvel universe. Like he knows what they're capable of. He almost feels like it's his duty to look out for the world as well,
Right.
like
As a leader, right.
Yeah, as a leader. I think they do kind of showcase that burden of it, on top of him trying to live up
To
to
the
being a
standard.
good to a standard. Right. And I think they balance that very well. I'll say this all the time. I say it all the time. An ending can make or break you. You can have a weak story and a fantastic ending, and they will heighten the rest of the series because of that. You can have a great series, weak ending, and it will tarnish that great series. Game of Thrones, perfect example. Dexter, perfect example.
Don't bring that up. Don't bring up Game of Thrones.
But I think it's not like that extremely, but I think it suffers like Shang-Chi, a weak third act where it's just kind of like they're kind of like, all right, guys, let's wrap up the pieces. There's it's and it just it loses a little bit of momentum.
Right.
And that fight between him and Michael B. Jordan, Killmonger, down in the subway stations, didn't look good then. It still doesn't look good now. Like the graphics were bad and CGI was bad in that. That scene, but I loved it. Beyond that, I'm trying to be a little bit more critical. So that's why it is at my number 9.
Yeah, I agree. I really was expecting more from that ending, especially because like you have two very prominent actors just going head to head. Yeah.
It's kind of lackluster.
I do think they were speaking to a lot more world problems, so absolutely. I'm really interested to see how this ages.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that like in a good or bad way. Just I'm very indifferent about it, just because of the time period we're living in. You see like a lot of like movies from back in the day that were speaking about a public issue or like a political issue, not really political, but a world issue. And look, like kind of some were able to maintain that, some were not. So I'm just excited. I'm interested. I'm more intrigued of how it'll maintain its overall message, and some of the themes that were spoken in it. My number 7 is going to be the movie that kicked it all off. Stefan, you mentioned it earlier. I'm putting it here at number 7.
8.
We're at number 8. Oh, we are at number 8. Sorry, I'm looking at my list and it wasn't there. We're at number 8. Sorry, I'm not going to talk about that movie. I'm going to talk about, you did talk about this earlier, but I'm talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. Tom Holland is not my favorite Spider-Man by any means necessary. He could be, just because he's so young, he's so quippy. I don't think that's necessary.
He gets the job done.
He gets the job done, but it's not anything that I've really looked at Spider-Man and just be like, that's just like a Peter Parker. He's like, I don't know, he's so good. Like he's solid. Like he's the most balanced out of all 3 actors we've had so far. He's the most balanced, but it's not. To me, it just feels like there's something missing.
No, yeah.
I think the thing about
was a great Peter. Spider-Man a little corny. Andrew, perfect Spider-Man. His Peter was too edgy. Like you said, Tom has that perfect balance, but he doesn't. It's almost because he doesn't go to one extreme, of the other. Like where Tobey was a great Peter, Andrew was a great Spider-Man. That he feels like he's missing something.
I think the biggest thing is we don't see Tom. We've only seen Peter Parker in school. We haven't seen him do anything else.
Yeah,
There's no real. I don't want to say classic struggle, but there's no like the
biggest struggle he had. The status
quo of Peter's life is the fact that he's always so busy, so balanced, right, and he's so relatable. I have a very hard time relating to Tom Holland on many different levels. And when I think of Spider-Man, I mainly think of him in New York, and we rarely see him in New York, which is another big pet peeve of mine of the movies. I'm not discounting Tom Holland as an actor. I think he probably is. This could be a hot take, but he's probably the best actor in the MCU right now.
That's a hot take.
That is a hot take. I think he's up there. I think he has the most potential. I would say he has the most potential because he's so young, and maybe we could see that mature Spider-Man we saw with Tobey Maguire one of these days.
Timothée Chalamet has a lot of. He's a good actor. He's got a lot of potential. Who did he play? He was in the new Dune. The Paul Atreides in Dune. The main kid in Dune.
Was he in the MCU?
No,
I
but
would
I'm
say that.
just
No, I'm saying Tom Holland's probably the best actor in the MCU. It has the most potential.
I can see. I won't argue that. I could, but I
But
won't.
the
But no,
thing about the thing about Tobey Maguire is like he just like looked at it. It's like it felt like Spider-Man. You know, he was going against classic Spider-Man villains. It wasn't like all robust in tech. You know, he made do with what he had. You know,
and Tom hasn't really, his version hasn't gone through any struggles. Like the
exactly.
worst thing he's had is he missed his homecoming. Like boo hoo. Like
Who fucking
you
cares? But
know,
like, there was no real sense of loss. When I think
yeah,
of Spider-Man, it's
absolutely.
like he's in such deep grief that we've all had bottled up, or we've all grieved, we've all had like anger bottled up, we've all had like all this stress, anxiety from our daily lives. I just don't see that in Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I don't know if that's like bad writing, bad scripting, but it makes for a bad movie overall. And I'm not saying the movie was bad by all means. It's just that fact alone really hinders it. If we had not Tom Holland, if we had Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in the MCU, it would probably be like in my top 2 or 3. But Homecoming didn't get the job done. Far From Home certainly didn't get the job done. I think that's right there with I'm gonna put this is probably a hot take. It's there with I liked it less than Iron Man 3. I liked it more than Thor: The Dark World. So I wasn't a big fan of Far From Home. I really wasn't. I really didn't. I was just like,
I understand that.
I don't know. I thought the whole movie was a little pointless. All it did was just out him, and I was like, cool. Like and then again, I just don't care for Mysterio. But
it was a good adventure.
That's my number 8. Homecoming. It has Tom Holland Spider-Man has a lot of potential to mature, but I feel like he's doing a lot of his stuff just to please Tony Stark rather than to live up to Uncle Ben or like any of like the other. I don't think he has like a sense of heroism yet in who he looks up to.
Yeah,
because he barely knew Tony Stark.
Yeah, that's true, and he doesn't bring up Uncle Ben. Well said, brother. My number 7, 8.
We on 8.
Yeah, 8. I corrected you, and I had to ask. Is the Avengers 1?
Oh.
Like it's up there with Iron Man. You almost couldn't have a lot of these team up, intertwining movies without the Avengers cementing that concept, and making it shown that it works so well. Like you can have these established characters with defining character traits on their own adventures and all that stuff, and they can come together and still branch out and still go do other stuff. Like Avengers really cemented that. The characters banter, the dialogue is great. Joss Whedon is great for that. I know there's a lot of people that hate on him, but say what you will, the man's work speaks for itself. It's it's a spectacle movie. Like it's the first, you think of Avengers, you think of, they showed a lot, so that's probably why, but you think of that downtown scene where it's just doing like a 360 of all the Avengers like looking around each other, and Black Widow's cocking her gun, and
that's one of those iconic scenes.
Yeah, that the movie's filled with quite a few moments like that. At the time it was amazing, but as the years go by, looking at it critically, the story was a little weak. There are quite a few plot holes. The shots in the movie, the coloring palette is kind of very dull. Like there's a lot of close-up shots, and it's supposed to be an action movie. It's supposed to be epic. You want wide shots, and there's not many of those. And they actually revamped that for Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron had many epic cinematic shots as opposed to the first Avengers.
Which kind of
looks like a TV movie sometimes, but it's got to be on the list. It never been done before. It cemented something that's just people are riding on today, which is the cohesive universe and characters. So Avengers.
That is a very iconic movie, like you said, it just makes history, and that's why they're able to do what they do today, and that's why we see other movies such as Dune that is able to do what they do today. That's head nod to Avengers, right? If you guys haven't seen Dune, go see Dune.
Movie of the year.
And then my number 7, mentioned it a little earlier, Iron Man. It started it all. It's iconic. Obviously, it doesn't live up to what it is today cinematically, but it reminds me of like a classic Marvel Bronze Age story, like a Silver Age story. It's like no matter how many times you reread it, it just hits different. every single time.
It's still enjoyable, yeah.
It's so enjoyable. It's like watching A New Hope and just looking at it and just like, wow, like this
Look
happened.
how far we've come.
Not like look how far we've come, but it's just like, wow, like it's still advanced for the time, right? And there are a lot of great moments, right? And I kind of miss some of those moments at that time where you kind of dive deep into the character's psyche. Like I think what really sold that movie was how they presented Iron Man. This was embarking on that. Like, yeah, we had other Marvel movies before, but this is like before that like epic relaunch and everything. But really getting attached to Tony Stark's character is what sold this movie, diving deep into his emotional status, his relationships, and how he kind of deals with his own struggle. I thought that is what alone grabbed a lot of people, not just seeing him in a suit or seeing just some rich guy. I think they really did a good job at selling Tony Stark as a character. And it
was the first time, seeing him he was kind of a prick, We're used to seeing these heroes just live by a code, and they're always, Tony was very human, he was a human who realized the error of his ways and was trying to redeem himself. And I think that's the story that
it was a great story. It was a great story, and I kind of miss that kind of way of storytelling sometimes. And I know it's just nostalgia. I know it's just nostalgia.
No, I was gonna say it's good for what it was, because at the time they did not. That script was not completed. A lot of that movie, dialogue-wise, is improvised. Like improvisation, because that script, they were shooting that movie on the fly. Like for the fact that it came out that it did is legendary, because it had a lot of stuff working against it.
I remember when I was younger and I saw this, I like left the theater because I was scared of it at first. I didn't know what was going on. This is before I was in the superheroes. Yeah. I was like, how old was I? I was probably like 7 years old or something when this came out. I'm 20 now. So I was like, what? Yeah, it was like my first.
Yeah, man. Wow.
It was like I remember like leaving the theater because I was seeing it with a friend. I didn't know until like a few years ago that was Iron Man that I saw. And I was like, oh. I would have probably liked it if I knew more about the character, but I never grew up with Marvel or anything. It was more of an acquired taste in my younger adolescence. But I'm putting it at number 7. I don't care. It's number 7.
It's okay. It's on the top 10. That's still respected. My number 7 is, let me make sure. So I did Avengers, Civil War.
Oh.
Yes. This was another like epic movie in terms of like, it was like a mini Avengers movie, mini Infinity War almost, in terms of like just the battle and the stakes feeling just epic and personal. I enjoy it because it's like, the reasons I enjoy this movie, it's a kind of an oxymoron, a contradiction, is because there's some of the reasons I almost think work against it. Of course, I love seeing Black Panther, love seeing Spiderman, and seeing the team ups and all that, but it takes away from the focus of the story. Like, I don't know how to describe it without. I'm not trying to brag on it, because it's a great movie, but because it's such a team up spectacle movie, you're looking forward to seeing these heroes battle it out, and so they're going to. You lose focus of what the story is actually got going for, which is about Steve trying to save his friend once again, redeem, what
you're saying is there are too many working parts in this movie.
Yes. And not enough time to breathe. Yes. You think about it, him and Steve, like Tony and Steve, really built a friendship. If anything, like, to become his new best friend. And so for Bucky to come back, he feels torn, man. Like, he's obligated to Bucky because that's his day one, and he knows that there's something going on with Bucky. But he's got to figure it out to explain it to the rest of the world. But at the same time, he's made such a rapport with Tony over here, and they've found kindred spirits in each other with trying to protect the world and do what's right. So, from a emotional story standpoint, that's really awesome. Gripping, man. Yeah, but you kind of lose focus of it because it's all about the battles and the fights, and so for that, number 7.
You're okay. Now we're at number 6.
Yes,
that's very valid. Civil War is much higher on this list. This is a hot take. I know this isn't on your list, but it's on mine. and it is probably the New York Knicks of the Marvel Universe, and it's Doctor Strange.
I knew
The
it.
reason why it's the New York Knicks is because the Knicks are a very like trippy team. Everyone sleeps on them, but they just find a way into the playoffs every year, and that's the Doctor Strange right now for me. It's just this trippy movie. The way it was shot was so different from every other Marvel movie. I'm not being biased at all because Doctor Strange is my top 5 favorite characters of all time. That's not the reason, but
No,
not at all. I mean, I don't care for Wong. I just love Benedict Cumberbatch in the MCU, and I love seeing Doctor Strange. I love what he represents, and this really pushes Doctor Strange as a character pushes the Marvel Universe. I would say more so than most characters do right now.
that's right.
I would say he's a big player, and I think we're going to be seeing more of that, and people are going to appreciate this movie a lot more. Like I said, the way it was shot was great. We got attached to all the characters in there. I think Mordo had a pretty valid reason for not liking him. I like what they're doing with the character. I'm excited to see Mordo return. I think Caecilius was really well done. I did not care for Dormammu. I get it. You tried to do a whole Galactus thing, but now that you have Galactus, we can just get rid of that, right? But
Dormammu will be back.
Oh, Dormammu will be back in a different form, I guarantee you. But I really like this movie, and I really don't care what anyone says. It's number 6.
It's not a bad movie, but I feel like it's
bad.
It's not a bad movie. No, none of them are bad movies.
You're
look
talking
at it,
about one of my
it's
favorite
beat
characters.
for beat. The plot, not beat for beat, but it's very similar to Iron Man. It's a rich, successful dude. He's dabbles with medical science. Tony dabbles with weaponry science. Very successful, very rich guys, used to having their way. This was a wake up call. Strange received his wake up call a little bit better than Tony in some aspects, but people forget that he was a very cocky guy, before he had his accident.
Right.
And that that's what it reminds me of Iron Man. He's a rich, successful, guy who has an accident that happens to him, has to learn about being kind and empathetic and just going about life in a new way. Instead of going the science route, he just chose the mystical route. That's how I look at Doctor Strange in this movie a little bit.
I can't believe you said that in front of me.
It was a good movie. It had its moments. Like, I really loved the look of it, the whole Inception stuff going on, brilliant.
I thought that was dope.
I said that was brilliant. I said that was brilliant. I liked it.
It really showed Marvel's like versatility right there.
Right. No, absolutely.
I was like really rooting for that too, but
the moment where he's like in between raindrops when the Ancient One is about to pass and she's talking to him, I love that scene. Right. I don't know. This movie didn't. It didn't have anything that was like a lasting impact on me. Like, it was fun, but I don't think it really opened the door for like how Shang-Chi and Black Panther established different looks at the Marvel Universe. I don't really feel like Doctor Strange did that for magic in the MCU.
Not in the first. I wouldn't say the first movie. I mean, I still enjoyed it. It's still my number 6.
No, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm just being a little critical about why it's not listed for me. But I did enjoy it though. Well placed.
And you make really good points. I'm not going to deny that. But number 6, Station.
6, Station. My number 6, or from 5.
You're 6. You're 6.
Yes, 6. Sorry, I can't count, guys. Is Endgame. This was a tough one for me. When this came out, I thought it was better than Infinity War, but based on some rewatches, Infinity War slightly edges this movie out. I love this movie though. It's like a greatest hits for Marvel. It kind of goes through like some of the best parts in all the Marvel movies up into that point, and you get to revisit a lot of cool scenes from different perspectives. Great humor that I like. It's unique because it's a more intimate tale, but the scope is still epic. Like, they're still trying to save the universe, but it's not all out war, Like, it was a time heist, but critically, it just, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it from the wrong aspect, but it kind of ends lukewarm instead of for a movie. Like I feel like Infinity War lived up to that hype, you know. But
I would say the ending hit. I would say the ending in Infinity War was better than the ending in Endgame. But overall,
see, okay, nowadays you can't do an ending in like Infinity War because the internet and updates on movies. But years ago, that ending would have worked. People are like, are they all dead? What? They're dead. And then a few years later, they're like, Avengers Endgame. Oh my God, they're coming back. Nowadays, we know they're coming back, so it loses that little
validity, right?
Yes. I'll give you that though. No, I'll give you that. It's I think the ending for Infinity War is poignant because it really emphasizes that hopeless feel. The movie kind of was going off that throughout. You know, the stakes were high. We might not pull this off, and they didn't pull it off. Like you know, usually the Avengers have saved the day up until that point. So it was cool to be like, oh my gosh, man, like how are they gonna recover from this? Like because even though they redeemed themselves, they still sacrificed and lost a lot to redeem themselves. You know, Tony's life.
100.
But yeah, yes, the ending in Endgame is way more emotional. But I still a great one of my top 10. So it's still a great movie. So
right, I would even say like some of these like I don't know, I don't watch many movies. So, like some of these like movies that we're naming in our top 10 is like still like my top 10 favorite movies of all time. My next one, my number 5. We are at number 5 now. Holy crap, we're getting through this list. I'm going with Civil War. So what I really loved about this movie is it not only introduced Spider-Man, which is super exciting to see in the MCU. That's like Marvel's flagship character. So obviously my favorite Daredevil's never going to interact. So I guess next up would have to be like Doctor Strange, who we haven't seen at this point, but then it would probably have to default to Spider-Man. So I was really excited to finally get one of my favorite damn heroes in the MCU. Yeah, so, I guess that was another one. We also got Black Panther in a very natural, organic way. I thought the stakes were very necessarily everything leading up to the superhuman registration was different than the comics, but it felt very natural. It felt great, and it worked for the story, you know?
Absolutely. No, I agree with that completely.
So I thought that was very creative, that I wasn't just seeing the same thing I read, just on a bigger scale.
Transferred to, yeah.
Yeah, it was like,
it was more intimate.
You're taking like some of the same ideas as Millar McNiven's, but you're containing it and you're doing it in an MCU fashion. And I thought that was really the biggest example where they started doing stuff their own way. I think Civil War really kicked that off because of how well it worked, to where they didn't necessarily have to take tropes from the comics that we saw in movies prior.
Right.
So more so about this movie is, I know Werner was talking about this a little bit, but the ending scene is like just guys beating each other up, and that was dope. We got a lot of emotional moments. I thought Zemo was a very intelligent villain, just kind of being the mastermind behind everything. He's just so sly.
Manipulative shit, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that character was very good for the movie. Ant-Man was cool. I liked how they kind of spun him in there. I liked a lot of the moments were very fitting. Like if I read a comic book, this is how they would act. Most importantly, being Black Widow ended up deceiving the side that she was on. I was like,
that was cool.
I was like,
great character moments.
I was like just some of the little stuff in this movie just meant so much more to me. We automatically got attached to T'Challa with the death of his father, which was later explained in the Black Panther movie. So it definitely got me excited to watch Black Panther. So there were many takeaways from Civil War to put it in my top 5. Yeah, it was really rushed and we were just going from thing to thing. We didn't really get to see everyone battle out, but it was never about that. It was about moving the MCU forward, and they did it in a very organic way that was entertaining, and it was very emotional. It was a very emotional movie. Steve just being torn. Obviously he has his buddy Sam, his buddy Iron Man, and Bucky, right? So he's kind of being put in that position to choose. So I really, really liked it. It's my number 5.
I agree with a lot of those sentiments, but I'm trying to be critical, because they're all enjoyable. But I think because, like you said, the emotional beats in that about the story, the moments where it deviates to go show Tony recruiting Peter and stuff like that, it takes away from the moment. It's a great moment, but if you look at the structure of the story, takes away from the momentum of the core of the story. So that's why I named it a little lower. But no,
Yeah.
great pick.
No, I definitely see it. I definitely see it. There are a lot of people that didn't like Civil War solely because it wasn't what it was advertised as.
Right.
But you know, we see that now. I mean, that's like the status quo of everything nowadays. Child Magneto. What else is out there nowadays? But
X Factor Trial. That's what it should have been called. X Factor Trial of Magneto.
Right. But we're not talking comics right now. But I mean,
it's always a good time to talk comics.
I mean, come on, man. Oh my God, what's your number 5, big man?
Number 5 for me is Infinity War.
Woo.
Yes, I think this movie, because I kind of would, when it first came, I wouldn't say I tore into it, but I was like, yeah, it wasn't all that. But if you look, I mean, I thought it was all that, but I don't know. I just thought it could have been more. Maybe my expectations were too high. But if you look at what this movie is doing, like for 10 years, they've been kind of seeding crumbs to this ultimate movie and promising this ultimate team up. Not just the Avengers. Almost every Marvel character we've introduced is going to be in this movie. I think the pacing was brilliant. Like it never let up. I don't think you should in a movie like this. Like you want it to kind of feel hopeless and like their backs are against the wall. And I think this movie really executed that. Like I said, it seemed hopeless, you know, like they might not pull it off, but you know, the heroes usually always win. So you have faith. And at the very end, it's hopeless again. They lose. You know?
Right. I thought this was Empire Strikes Back all over again.
Yeah. Well, I like that comparison. I think the stakes were just high. The momentum, great character moments for me. Certain character motivations are a little odd, yes, but I think it worked within the realm of the story they had set up, within the realm of the world they established.
Right. You know, that's awesome, you know, and kind of looking back, I really do love Infinity War. I know I was a little bit low on it earlier, but again, it's hard not to be critical when you're asked to name your top 10. It's like even the smallest itch bunks it down like 1 or 2, and I'm just like, I'm torn. Everyone who's done this list, Jen Mint, torn. Who else has done it? Robbie. I've never seen Robbie more torn in his life. And this man is usually, I love the book or I don't love this book. I'm sorry, Robbie, but Station Robbie, but Station Gem. But man, these are like fucking torn ass men over these movies. So my number 4 has to be Guardians of the Galaxy number 1. I was kind of ragging on Volume 2 a little bit, but I think what this movie set up really well was we didn't know a lot of these characters. Guardians of the Galaxy was a topic that whether you're a long-term comic book fan or just a fan of the MCU, you had no idea what the hell it was. Maybe I think the most recognizable character could have been Ronan just because of Fantastic Four first appearing in there.
Right.
Maybe Gamora. But this was more of a newer concept, being that we just got a book about it like 2 years before it came out, 3 years. I believe that was when Abnett came out. But it was a new concept, and it was done in a way where people got attached to all those characters, and you like instantly fell in love. James Gunn did a very good job of building with the soundtrack to match the movie. That to me was the strong suit.
Absolutely, yeah.
And these are all like
coloring, yeah.
Yes. These were all like endless hits too, you know. And they just really fit the vibe of this movie as well. I got attached to Ronan as a villain because it obviously like was building up to Thanos. We also got a hint of the Collector, which is a really cool character.
Anytime someone brings up Ronan, I always think of him as like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "This is a dance off, man!" Like, and you just start
dance off. Yeah. I thought Chris Pratt was fantastic. Now, I'm not biased because I've met every single one of these actors except for Chris Pratt and Ronan. Like, I met Zoe Saldana, I've met Nebula, I've met Yondu, I've met Drax, I've met James and Sean Gunn.
Can you name these characters real? Drax and Yondu's real
David
name?
Bautista, Michael Rooker.
Oh, okay. You don't have to name anymore.
Mantis,
I'm surprised.
Zoe, I forgot her last name. Karen Gillan was Nebula. Okay. I met Mantis.
Yeah.
But It was at GalaxyCon and then AwesomeCon the year before, and I didn't pay enough to
I
take a
give you
picture
credit.
with them.
You named Michael Rooker. I was not expecting you to get that, so you get props from me, man. I didn't.
Yeah, see, I know some people. I gotta beat them first.
I get props.
Station
to that. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
But I really, really, really like this movie. You know, Gamora was a badass. Rocket was a badass, and it's like these are characters not everyone has heard of or kind of forgot about, and you were just instantly like encapsulated by the way this movie was done. A lot of great dialogue moments, had its humor moments, and it was just like it felt almost like a Western, but it felt so sci-fi, and it felt like more, I don't know. I got a lot of Western vibes in it.
I can see that.
But I love this movie. I will always go back and watch the first one. And this was actually what got my family into like all the Marvel movies, was the 2 Guardians movies.
So I would this is one of the movies I mentioned earlier that I think that Marvel kind of has a template for how they make the rest of their movies. Iron Man, Avengers, and I think Guardians, maybe Winter Soldier but definitely those 3, Guardians, Iron Man, Avengers 1, I think are the blueprint, because Iron Man has the humor, kind of, we pick a character, make them endearing. Avengers has that whole team up bombastic aspect to it. And then with Guardians, that's probably the biggest heartfelt movie in the MCU. Like, you can tell that movie was made with a lot of heart, and it's specifically designed to, like, that's a family movie. Like you said, that movie, it took some unknown characters and turned them into household names overnight.
Right.
And I think Marvel learned how to do that with this movie. Like, we make these characters, give them some personality traits, some problem. Like, I'm simplifying it. Simplifying it, but
right. You got the CD?
Marvel learned a lot from this.
You have the CD?
Which one?
You got the CD?
Who?
Of Guardians. Never mind, I'm being stupid.
No. Do you ever see Jen? Yeah, I know what you're trying to do. I knew what you were trying to do. Well, you almost had me, because I was like, CD. Yeah, I love Guardians, though. That's great movie. Great pick.
That's what I didn't do to Verno.
Damn it. Dang it. Next time. Verno probably would have played it. I don't think he would have fell for it. My number 4 starts to get tough around here. I'm still debating, should I change it, but I'll go with it. Thor Ragnarok. The pacing of this movie, how far out, like the coloring, the humor, the wit, like the fact that Thor is so otherworldly, like it should be just out there, psychedelic, which this movie is. By no means is this a perfect representation of how Thor is in the comics, which might anger or throw off a lot of people, but it's just such a charming, enjoyable movie that trying so many different things. It's almost like an auteur movie, to be honest. I'll get back to that auteur in a second, but yeah, just because this has just got a great energy to it. The cast, the rapport, the comedic timing for almost all the actors. Like, Chris Hemsworth has a underrated comedic timing, and I think it's just on fire in this movie. Like, Thor's hilarious, like he went from being kind of boring to almost one of your favorite guys, because that guy's funny. I know he's got a good heart. Like, he's good. So that says a lot. Usually the third movie in a franchise is
no bueno,
the worst one, and this happens to be the best one out of it. Yes,
right.
The flex, yeah.
And for that reason, that's also at number 3. Also, Hela is honestly one of the better.
That's my number 4.
I know it's your number 4, but we're on to number 3 now.
Okay.
So we got a number 3, and it's Ragnarok. For many of the reasons you just mentioned, I think Hela aesthetically is has one of the best character designs. I loved her as a villain. I still think she is one of the most ruthless villains we've had in the MCU. And this is like, oh shit, this bitch don't fly around.
That scene where she took out the Asgard by herself.
I was like, damn. I was like, Thor's got in for this shit. I was like, because now he needs to have Loki by him. And I was like, I was like, if they're teaming up, it's real. I like
You
what they
know
did
it's
with I like what they did with the Grandmaster, the whole Planet Hulk thing. It's like, that's how it feels. So one of the best lines of comics in movies. I was like,
yo,
it was great. I mean, Korg and Meek, you can just laugh at for days. You kind of saw this movie go through different vibe changes, which felt natural. It didn't feel forced. Like the whole moment with Surtur and him just spinning around. I was like, that's hilarious. I was like, that's awesome. But
Carl Urban, I forget who he plays the bald dude with the machine guns. I forget his name.
Scourge.
Scourge, he was
my man. Scourge.
Wonderful in this movie, man. Like,
I was like, Scourge is the man. You know what I want to see now? I want to see Pip and Scourge just hash it out now that we got Pip in the MCU. Spoilers for Eternals, but we got Pip in the MCU.
Yes, that would be great dialogue. Patton Oswalt is hilarious, man. So
I'm like, yeah, that would be just perfect as shit, man. I love Ragnarok, man. I loved this movie.
I think he's coming back, Carl Urban.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this movie.
You gotta do it. Hands down, to Thor Ragnarok. There's so many great working moments. Tessa Thompson, I think, is a very underrated actress.
She held her own in this movie.
I love Tessa Thompson in this movie. I love her in Creed. If you guys have not caught Creed, go check out Creed. I think it's one of the best generational movies like passing the torch from one generation to another. I love Creed. I love Tessa Thompson and Michael B. Jordan in that movie.
And she was very. I like Tessa because she's a warrior, but she is very. Not that you need to be classy about being a warrior, but she had an elegance to her, as supposed she's supposed to be a Valkyrie.
She's a certain swagger to her.
The world said yes. It was her how she carried herself in that movie.
I was like, that's awesome, bro.
Very powerful. Yeah.
But I really like this movie. I'll rewatch this movie any day of my life. It
absolutely. Anytime you throw it on or catch it, it's a movie I'll put on in the background. Just great bits, great quotes.
Right? And then Hella comes on, I'm like, damn.
And I like when Marvel can get past. I mean, it's a comic book, but I like when they get to the heartfelt moments with Guardians and Peter's mom. This movie with Loki coming to terms about how he's an
asshole. He knows it,
and he felt that though. But because he's kind of like when he was like, man, I was always loved, but like when Odin dissipated. Right. He was like, I've always been loved, and I was just he was acting out, man. And he kind of realized he kind of had to change shit up, or change stuff up after that. Right. Just got a lot of great moments. Coloring, the music, great. My number 3 is Iron Man 3.
What?
That might be a hot take, but I think I've always had a soft spot in my heart for this movie, and I didn't get why other people don't get it. It's not perfect. But I think what it was trying to do was very different than most Marvel movies were trying to do at the time, or probably have done. Kevin Smith said this a while back, and I think he said it best. He articulated what I've been feeling and thinking, but couldn't find the words for myself. And he said, this is Marvel's first and maybe only auteur film, and the fact that Marvel has a way of taking on these big-name directors, but when they put out a movie, it feels like a Marvel movie. You don't really see their signature style, their wit, their dialogue.
They do it the Marvel way, I guess.
The Marvel way, absolutely.
Right.
Iron Man 3, you can tell it's a Shane Black movie. Like, if you watch Shane Black movies, it's got the themes, the dialogue, I keep saying dialogue, but just the writing, the banter between characters, like the sarcasm back and forth, famous for that. It's not just Tony Stark who's sarcastic in that movie. It's the kid, it's Ben Kingsley at one point, Pepper, Rhodey, everyone's there's banter going on. And
I would say that they're really quippy, or like they're really saucy.
Very quippy, yes.
Saucy.
Yeah, very saucy. Quippy is the perfect way to say it. But this still felt like a Marvel movie at the same time. It didn't lose sight of that. And I love this movie because the other movies kind of showcase Tony and his technology.
Right.
This movie showed you what Tony could do just based off his intelligence. Right. He didn't need to have a big advanced lab around him. He was out on his own and still made stuff happen like MacGyver style. So I really love that aspect. It showed you about Tony Stark, the man.
Right.
And
I think go ahead, defend it. I said defend it.
I'm going to. People are sleeping on it. Like I said, it might be Marvel's only true auteur movie next to Thor Ragnarok. maybe Guardians of the Galaxy. Those three movies are maybe the auteurs of the MCU. But
You know what?
boom, there you have
I'm
it.
with you. My number 2 is Endgame. I know that's like what the common person would say. Oh my gosh, I'm normal. Deal with it. Yeah, I'm normal, mom. But but what I really liked about this was I will never ever ever forget seeing this in theaters. Right. Um, just everyone is there. Everyone knows why they're there. They're there to see this finale. We're here to close the curtains and enter a new age. But just you're gonna lose characters. You know what the stakes are, right? You're so attached seeing these characters going on 10 years now, right? A whole decade you've seen these actors. So right? It's almost like bittersweet. You're seeing all these memories of all these past movies, and then you get to the sacrifice. My only gripe with this is Thanos never kills anyone. Thanos never kills anyone. Everyone died through sacrifice. Thanos didn't kill anyone.
Technically, didn't he kill the Avengers from his timeline, and then he came to the future?
No, or because he crossed over.
Okay, I thought that's what. Maybe they were going to show that he was.
Thanos didn't kill anyone. That's my biggest gripe with the movie. However, just the emotional reactions, just seeing Tony Stark die and Black Widow sacrifice herself, those were like everyone just bawling out. I would just never forget. Like even now, just getting goosebumps from it. This was my prom, by the way, y'all. This is my senior prom when I saw this. So with that being said, yeah, I had a date. I had a girlfriend at the time, and we didn't go to prom. We dressed up like in our prom stuff, and we went to see the movie.
That's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, I took her out to a very nice dinner. We didn't get no McDonald's. We got like
big boys. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Actually, I took her out for steaks, but we went to a steakhouse. It was nice. But
maybe the movie was. I noticed themes between Infinity War and Endgame, and the fact that in Infinity War we got Hulk for a little bit, then it was Bruce Banner for the rest of the movie. Same with Endgame, we got Hulk for a little bit, and then wasn't it Bruce Banner towards the end, or was it still?
It was.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he was Bruce towards the end. So it was like role reversal. So in Infinity War, Thanos is slaughtering people. You know, he kills half the universe. So maybe in the second half, they're like, this time Thanos doesn't kill anybody. He just gets demolished. He's the one who. It's like role. Maybe it was like thematically them trying to role reversal, but.
That's all right. I was like, you know what, it's whatever. But dude, I really like this movie.
No.
It's just one of those movies to me. It's like I can just watch her again, and you see and I always think about this is when people went to see Star Wars for the first time, like their jaws just like dropped. Right, I'm talking the original trilogy. To me, it's like this is something that I'll look at 20 years from now, 30 years from now. It's like I'll have that experience, and that's something that people will want to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like I really treasure that. I really treasure it. So I think that alone will put it in my top 2 MCU movies.
That's fair.
Yeah. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is. This is where it got hard.
By the way, y'all, I'm not good at movie reviews, so this is the best you're getting. We do a movie segment on weekly wrap up, so we did. That's a train wreck in and of itself. But thank you, Bryce.
No, Bryce. That's a good segment. That'll get better over time. It's a good idea. I say keep up with it. It's just another story at the end of the day. Movies. It's just a different way of telling a story. You love stories, so. I'm going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. This was hard, my last 2.
Yes!
I think that this movie is, like I was saying, a template for how Marvel makes a lot of their other movies. I think the fact that the Guardians were such obscure characters before this movie, and they became household names almost because of this, speaks a lot to the strengths of this movie.
Of these characters, right?
Yeah, of these characters, yeah. It made every character stand out and lovable on their own. Like even, Drax was not really a main character, but he still had a defining personality and like character traits that people could be attached to. Like he wasn't just some background character.
Oh, I knew I loved Zoe Saldana from like Avatar, but
well, she's a great actor.
Well, I saw from Avatar, but speaking on Zoe Saldana real quick, sorry to cut you off, but I think it's really cool that she's starring in 2 of the highest grossing movies.
Yeah, that we're competing against each other. Yeah. She's got a great career.
She's just sitting there chilling like this.
Yeah.
She's like, you know who she is? She is the what's his name? Oh my gosh. He was the dude that played with LeBron, the Josh Jacobs, not Josh Jacobs. What's his name? Of the NBA. I'm losing my train of thought. I can't.
Yeah, I don't watch sports like that. That's all going over my head. We'll be sitting here all day if I'm trying to guess. I think this movie had a lot of heart. It's the energy to this movie, like you said, the music selection, right, the editing, the pacing. This is a movie I can kind of throw on at any time and just have it on in the background. And it's, it's a great, like you said, your family got into the MCU because of this movie, and I definitely understand that. Right. This movie was designed.
James Jones. That's what I was thinking of. For any of the basketball heads, James Jones. He was from the moment LeBron went to Miami, he was on every final.
This movie was just very poignant or important to Marvel's overall tapestry, to getting the blueprint for what they wanted their movies to represent. Like in that family aspect, like, because that's what Marvel wants. They want more butts in the seats. They want everyone to see their movies because money. Well, Disney does, but family movies equal more of that. Yeah. So this really gets that across so well. Like I think it's got probably the most heart and emotion out of any other Marvel movie. Just because people can identify with losing loved ones and to circumstances you can't control, or, finding a family outside of your family, or, making your own family and stuff like that. Redemption, like, just finding your, like, not really redemption, but just being lost and finding your way. Like, this movie has a lot going for it that I really love this movie. Impressed me because did not know. I'd read the Abnett and Landing run a few years earlier. Didn't really dabble in the Bendis stuff until right before this movie came out. So I wasn't the biggest Guardians fan, but this movie left a lasting impression on me with these characters. So I think that's very powerful. I think it speaks to the strengths of this film. So number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1.
And I'm pretty sure we have the same number 1.
Ant-Man? You picked Ant-Man?
No, I picked the first Avenger.
Oh my gosh.
No, I picked Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Same, yeah. Since it's the same moment, we'll just come on out, Winter Soldier.
Thank you guys for sticking with us for this whole thing. Let's talk about Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Go for it, brother. Go for it.
I was gonna. Are you wrapping up, or were you?
No, we're gonna talk.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna talk. Okay. I was just gonna thank everyone for watching this far, and let's talk about our favorite movie, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Link, I'll let you kick it off.
Okay. We'd love to know you guys', please, in the comments.
Let's get them lists.
This movie, this movie made me understand Captain America. I always kind of got what he is about, but I didn't think he was necessarily that cool before this movie. Like, I'll be honest, when Civil War came out in 2006, I was Team Iron Man all day. I was like, what are you guys, crazy? Iron Man's coming at it from a logical standpoint.
We would have not been friends back in the day.
Understandable, but he was being smart about it. Like, he was like, we can either go against the U.S. government and have everybody be an outlaw and things will be super chaotic, or we can try to mitigate this and meet them halfway and try to work from within the system. Like, he was being smart about it. He was being logical. Cap follows his heart. I get it. And it had to be done, but like, what Tony did had to be done. I get where Cap's coming from, but Tony was being very intelligent about it. He was being the lesser of two evils, and you got to do that sometimes. Yeah. So with that, I never got Cap. All right, but this movie made me respect Cap. I was like, oh, one man army. I get it. Like that opening scene where he's diving it to save the people on that cruise liner. Oh my gosh!
I like the
drop kick that guy over.
I love the costume.
Oh yeah, yes, the secret. So yeah, I love what that was in the Brubaker the super soldier costume. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, that's my favorite Cap costume. It just makes the most sense. It's not bright. It's very stealth like, but in light, it's still
iconic. It's
iconic. It's very iconic. just this movie I think has the best representation of
Yeah.
Black Widow. I think she was the best Black Widow in this movie. Very flirty and seductive, but serious and deadly at the same time.
Oh,
Like you
Scarlett
do not to
Johansson.
be toyed with.
Yeah. We're not
Um,
going to talk about toying with Scarlett when we're also talking about Scarlett Johansson in the same. I'm just going to point that out right now. I
the
don't. For the sake of the audience.
right, well, that's tough. That's fair. This it's not really auteur, but this definitely felt like a thriller change, like a genre change up for most Marvel movies. You know, where first Avenger just felt like a campy period piece, but still a Marvel
Yeah.
movie. This one felt like an espionage thriller, which they were going for, but they really pulled that off. And
There's so many good things about this movie. The
yes,
acting was great,
great.
right? It was such a grounded thing. You didn't necessarily need like the strongest person in there. It's just guns and a shield, you know?
Yes.
And cars. I love the inner workings of Shield. I love like kind of those secret society stories, like kind of like Quarter Owls. But I love what Shield stands for, and I think that's kind of what my favorite part about reading some of the early 2000s Marvel is how they did Shield. But I also really loved the character moments in this movie are timeless. They're endless, and that's kind of what I look for in a movie.
On your left.
Is it's like if you can't get me attached to the characters, I have no bother even involving, and I tend to remember movies more with quotes. I think that's a very safe thing to say. On your left, that's what everybody thinks of, right?
Or when they're in the elevator and he's like,
so
now before we get started
do anyone like to get out?
Yeah, that man, bro, such a great scene.
That's how I feel whenever I go to argue people. I'm sorry, but that just scene alone is just like he does not care. He will stand up for his beliefs. He's a very empathetic character. He feels a lot, which is why he reacts a lot emotionally. And I think that's a big strength and the courage that this man has. I loved it, right? The courage to stand by your friend when the world is telling you no. That takes guts, right? When everyone is attacking someone, right? What do normal people do? They stand there, they'll whip out their phone, they'll record it, right? Or they'll hit them up on the side and be like, no, it's okay. You shouldn't feel bad. Steve is the kind of person that will jump in there and fight for the friend, fight for the person everyone's shooting at.
It might be the writing because, as we know, I love Mark Miller, but he can be very nihilistic in his writing, you know, very dark. And I love Mark Millar. He's a great idea, man. You wouldn't have a lot of the MCU is built off his.
That's what I got out of this movie, especially with Bucky coming back and everything.
No, I was just gonna say this movie. I got Cap's heart in this movie. You know, I understood finally. Like I didn't really see his point of view, maybe because Mark Miller was writing Civil War and he's more dark. But I got why Cap would be the guy to stand up to something like that and follow his heart. And he was like, I was like, you know what? I respect that. You know, I could see where he's coming from. Like he's not just. It seemed like in Civil War, he did have his reasons. The comic. I'm not Civil War the movie, but in the comic, it seemed like he was just like going against the grain to go against the grain. But in this movie, he was following his heart because he knew, like he wasn't being stubborn. Like he knew something was up and he was gonna do the right thing as best he could.
Right.
Or die trying, and that's Cap for you know, and I very respectable.
Right. And I love this movie. I really do. It's like anytime. We got introduced to Crossbones, who is a great character as well. Just a lot of seeing a lot of the rogues in there. Sharon, of course, being a key character now. I think this movie just has so many working parts that we're just seeing come full circle, especially like in the Falcon Winter Soldier TV show.
Yeah, started in this movie. Yeah,
I absolutely adored this movie, and this is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably up there with like Alien, Star Wars, Harry Potter, some of those films, any one of them. So I hold this movie in very high regards. The action was great. The pacing was great. You're just so invested in this movie from start to finish.
Absolutely. Yes. You're saying it perfectly. Like this movie just has it all. Like when I look at Marvel movies for like when I think of the fun family aspect, you have Guardians for that. When I think of like the sweet action, the pacing, this is the movie I think of.
Right.
Like, you know, that Infinity War got its pacing. Well, it was the Russo brothers directing the same projects, but you can see the pacing tidbits in Winter Soldier in Infinity War.
And I never really look at it like that. I'm really bad at saying, okay, this movie takes inspiration from this movie, unless it's like very obvious. But
right.
I think Marvel does a good job of masking it, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All great movies, though.
I'm very amateurish when it comes like talking about movies. So I just like we said, you guys. These are our top 10. You ever to each their own opinion, right? I'm not gonna judge you for it, like I said, unless Deadpool's in your top one, because I'm just like, that's a whole nother universe in and of itself. But make sure you guys comment your list, let us know, and if you don't want to do it, just give us your top 5. We do have to tag 2 people. Their links will be in the description below. Shout out for Vernon for tagging us. Shout out Robbie and Jem who took it before Cerebros. But we will be tagging John from John's Comics for Kids. Can't wait to see. He's a big film guy, so I cannot wait to see what he does. John's awesome. He does a Saturday morning show with his daughters when they're awake, because I know sometimes they can oversleep a little bit. Got the bagels, talk about comics, and we talked about family dynamic. That's great over there. John also holds religion ceremonies every Tuesday, talking about Omni X-Men. So it's religious. It's the X-Men. They're going.
I thought you were being Sorry, I thought you were being serious. But yes, that is religious. My bad.
It is. It's a Claremont burn, and we're getting out of that run now. I believe they're on 139. I think they're on 139. They just did annual 4, so I think 139 is the next up. Big shout out to them, or big shout out to John. And I know he also does movie reviews. Sometimes it's like Perry or Bearded Comic Bro. But and then the other person we're tagging is PCB Army Bad Batch. Icon, legend, you know him. Big Herm. We're tagging Big Herm.
Sorry, I had to get the station right. Love you, Herm.
Big Herm, obviously known for his unboxings. Team up with Sam, R.I.P. Sam. But Herm is always bringing a lot of fun energy. Herm's channel really reminds me of going to the comic book store and just seeing like just someone who's
on the wall.
Like, what? That's how I see Herm. It's like you go to Herm's channel and it's just full of positivity, just full of happiness. You know what? Herm's show is Christmas every single day. Right? Anyway, guys, this is Whiplash Wednesday. So check out Travis, who's up next, 3 o'clock. We had Nick earlier today at 11 taking us to cadets, assuming that they got their shipments on time. You never know in this day and age. But hopefully if they did, right, we'll let you know. And look for next video then, or you can find him later at 5 o'clock where he drops his haul videos. Other than that, we have Herm doing his hauls. I'm not sure if I'm going to be on today's show. I'll have to check up with Herm on that. But also we have Manny closing us out tonight, and then Blame Fable. Who's the next guest? It's Old Wolf, right?
Nick will be on.
So Nick will be on Sunday, part of the Bad Batch. Sunday for the Blame Fable Tonight show, featuring Missing Link and Big Herm every Sunday, the lead into Rock and Robbie Live. So PCP Army Bad Batch is the place to be on Wednesdays. We don't need to tell you twice. You guys already know. Come hang with us throughout the whole day. Have some fun. Talk some comic books. Share your hauls. And let us know what you are most excited to pick up this week. Let us know your favorite books from this week and your favorite Marvel movies from the MCU, all that good stuff. You already know. But coming up on the channel, we're also going to be having John Leesond at 6 o'clock Eastern time tonight from AWA.
That's dope.
How did I forget about that? I shouldn't have said that. But that's because we're filming this so late. I was like, slipped my mind. But other than that, we had weekly wrap up. And if we haven't hit 500 subs, we're about to hit 500 subs. So if we haven't hit it by then, we're going to hit it anyway. It's a big shout out to everyone who's been sharing our stuff and been supporting us. It really means a lot. Embarking on this journey with Stefan, Bryce, and Michael these past few months, we made some big changes to the channel. But I think it's been so well received. And that's just a testament to you guys and all you amazing people who just love talking comic books with us. So it's a big station to that. I just love meeting all the new people we have, and we've been really, really having a lot of fun doing what we're doing here. And then other than that, we have, what else do we have coming out? What do we have coming out? Oh, Archives, King and Black. Cool. Yes. King and Black, cool. I'm excited for it. It's King and Black. It's gonna be cool. And that'll be led by me. Check out Joker War. That was led by Michael previous week. And we out. Take care, y'all. Station. Let me get this outro going. Roll call.